Hello and welcome to this Friday edition of ET Now Startup Central. I'm Chandra Srikanth joining you live from India Startup Capital, Bengaluru, and we have a power-packed show lined up for you. We had exclusive access to IDG Ventures' 10th anniversary event in Bangalore yesterday, Krishna. So that's clearly going to be the theme of this show.
Absolutely. This is Krishna Kumar coming to you live from ET Now's Mumbai studios, and as Chandra just rightly pointed out, today's show is a very special one, and it is about 10 years of venture capital investing that was celebrated by IDG Ventures in Bengaluru, and ET Now Startup Central got exclusive access, and in the form of Chandra R. Srikanth and Rahul Dayama, leaving no stone unturned at that IDG Ventures Summit. Chandra, just to start things off, tell us, what was it like over there?
So, Krishna, it was a day-long event which had some very good keynote speakers. You had Nandan Nilekani really talking about the future of payments. Rajan Anandan, I would say, is someone who left everyone with something to think about the next 10 years as far as Indian internet is concerned, and also, the correlation between GDP per capita and commerce. Why is it that internet companies are not able to make that much money in India? Some very pertinent points that he's raised. We will be bringing you excerpts of what Nandan said, what Rajan said. We also, of course, caught up with the founders of IDG, Sudhir Sethi and TC Meenakshi Sundaram. Apart from that, we also caught up with one of their portfolio companies, Lenskart, which was recently classified as a Sunicorn by Traction, which means a company that's on its way to becoming a unicorn. So, these are some of the top voices we have on the show for you today. But apart from this, there were a lot of interesting parallel tracks focused on health, focused on SaaS-based companies, and also keynotes by Chris Gopalakrishnan and Mukesh Bansal towards the evening. I so wish we had a 1-hour show, but we have a 20-minute show, and we're going to pack in as much as possible now.
Absolutely, Chandra. Looks like you hobnobbed with us, the who's who of the tech world as well as the startup world at those IDG Ventures. And as we promised you, both of us, we do kick things off on the show with IDG's founders, Sudhir Sethi and TC Meenakshi Sundaram. They spoke to Chandra on IDG's biggest hits and misses over the last decade and the areas they look at going forward. Take a look at this.
The high point for us is we have one of the best teams in the country. I always say that VCs don't grow on trees. So we are total 14 people, 7 partners, and most of the people joined us as associates or senior associates and have done very well, and between 5 to 7 years grown to be partners. Like a good entrepreneur who builds his team and becomes successful, I classify ourselves as venturepreneurs. And for us, the only way to succeed is to have a great team.
Right.
And I think that's the highest point we have today.
He gave me the high point, so you give me the low point.
I think the way you look at it, the industry goes through ups and downs, right? The industry has gone through a period of hyper fundraising and a period of what we call as winter.
What
right?
we are going through now?
Autumn.
Yeah, this is still not. There is still more to come, maybe for some time.
Okay.
Right? And so like this, and there is a lot of challenges at one time in 11 to 13 that the whole industry faced, because a country also faced, saying that what's happening? No decision making. Are you guys returning capital or not? This for the whole industry is a big question, right? That's always a thing that people face. And when the fund managers realize that returning capital and return on capital, both are important.
Right. I know this is a difficult question, but if you have to outline one investment that you cherish the most, it could be the first one or the one that gave you the biggest return, what would that be?
No, that's very tough because I think we've been fortunate that out of the 60 portfolio which we have 12 companies who are now market leaders. Market leaders by far. Whether you take Manthan or you take Lenskart or you take First Try, Nestaway, Newgen, Myntra, and I'm sure I'm missing a few, Perfint, Forus, every one of them. So throughout our 10 years, except for the year when we were raising capital, we've had one investment which has become a market leader. So instead of one baby which is our favorite, I think we have 12.
Any regrets? One company that you should have perhaps invested in, which you didn't?
I think time is yet to, time is the only teller of some of these things. We have had evaluation sometimes say that, okay, did we miss this? But so far, we have not seen anything which is still standing out as something that we missed. Yes, we missed some on valuation, but, or sometimes because of, our point of view in an industry. And I think those are not yet, I call as regrets.
Final question, TCM. We've had some exceptional sessions today, speakers like Nilekani, Rajan Anandan outlining the next 10 years. If you have to take away, 2 or 3 highlights from today, what would they be in terms of, what it means for the future?
So in my mind, the 300 million today will be 1 billion people using internet in India 10 years from now. That is how this bandwidth as well as the affordable phone. And also, this is one thing that is actually catapulting anybody to move to the next level.
Right.
And that's going to dramatically change. Education, everything, finance, all of them will change.
You heard out the founders there, Krishna, but really time to get you some of those keynote speakers at the IDG event. And we kick it off with Nandan Nilekani, who spoke about an alternate view of the future. I must say that his presentation certainly gave us reasons to worry, because he spoke about robots replacing human beings in every activity
again,
going
Chandra.
forward.
Robots again on ET Now Startup Central.
Yeah. That seems to be a recurring theme this week, Krishna. I don't know if it's a sign, but he did speak about that, and Rahul caught up with him for an interview where he also spoke about his new venture with Ratan Tata and Vijay Kelkar, Avanti Finance. It's the first time he's really talking about it to any journalist. He also spoke about the impact of his pet theme, that's UPI. Let's listen into what Nandan Nilekani had to say.
Domestic consumption is going to drive India's growth, not exports. It's not that exports will stop, but exports won't grow. So domestic consumption will drive India's growth. Second point, it will be services-led and not manufacturing-led, because manufacturing has challenges of automation and Chinese overcapacity. And third is that it will not be large companies hiring, but platforms aggregating millions of small retailers, farmers, small merchants. So platform aggregation, domestic demand and services is going to be the key to India's growth.
So be curious to know, how did Avanti Finance really come about in terms of conversations with Mr. Tata and Kelkar, and when do you really start to start operations?
Well, it's Mr. Tata's idea. Mr. Tata is the chairman of the Tata Trust, which is the largest philanthropist in India. They support millions of people through their various NGOs. And he's really keen to improve the quality of credit to the underserved and the unserved. And so he invited me, and for me to work with an iconic legend like Mr. Tata is a great opportunity. So I offered to join and help in his mission. It's a purely philanthropic activity for both of us.
So also UPI has gone live a few days back. While HDFC and SBI are still to roll out, people are talking about how it would be difficult for them to remember the correct virtual payment address. So you think these are initial hurdles that we can iron out?
The virtual payment address is something that you give, right? In fact, I was told that there is a massive demand for virtual payment addresses, because now, let's say where do you have your account, Rahul?
I have it on SBI.
Okay, so when SBI launches, which hopefully will be soon, you can get rahul@sbi.com if you move fast before some other Rahul gets it. So there's going to be a massive demand for virtual payment addresses. I don't see any problem at all.
Lastly, GDP data came out yesterday. Are you a little disappointed, and do you think 8% now is unlikely for this year?
See, I don't know about this data and all that. I look at the trends, and I believe that India is poised for long-term growth, provided we focus on domestic consumption, focus on services, focus on platformization, and use the India stack to drive productivity.
Nandan Nilekani there in conversation with ET Now's Rahul Dayama. Chandra, and the voices on the show keep only getting bigger. Up next is Google's Vice President for India and Southeast Asia, Rajan Anandan. And he believes that it will take at least a decade to build internet companies in India that are profitable And one reason, and the main reason that Rajanandan gives for this, is that while the user base is high here in India, the GDP per capita is much lower than the economies such as the United States of America or China, for that matter. In fact, Anandan went forward to say that even Reliance Jio's 1 GB for 50 rupees data tariffs are unaffordable for the most of India. Listen in.
Number of people that are asking this question, are there really 300 million internet users? Let me put it to rest. There are. There are 300 million internet users. They access the internet once a month. Okay, and this is important. So the 300 million number is a monthly active number, right? So you can actually count users many different ways: daily actives, weekly actives, monthly actives. So the 300 million is a monthly active number. You'll hear numbers that are bigger, 350 million. That's probably an ever-used number. And there's lately a number from the government of 450 million. I actually don't know what that is. But 300 million monthly actives we have for sure. The most important number, though, and the number that, especially if you're building a consumer internet business in India today, is the number of daily active users on smartphones. And that number is now over 100 million users. Okay, and that, to me, is actually the most important number. 100 million daily active users on smartphones, right? As I'm sure all of you would agree, unless you're living in China or the US, that number is really, really large. So 100 million users active on the mobile internet every single day in India. On average, they spend about 3 hours on their devices, okay, doing something. That's a lot, 180 minutes. However, interestingly, they spend more time on apps offline than online. Why is it that only 100 million of these 300 million users are active every single day? Why is it that the Dow to Mao ratio is 1/3? It's very simple. It's affordability. It's mobile data, even at 50 rupees a GB, is very expensive for most of India. Only reason today that the daily active users in India is 100 million on mobile and not 300 million is affordability. We have a very large user base. So how is it that after spending $20 billion of venture capital funding, $20 billion, we don't actually have a lot to show for it? Why is that? We do, by the way. We have unicorns. But in terms of mega revenue and profit pools, why is it that we don't have much to show for it yet? Actually, the reason is very simple. Affordability. India is still a poor country. We all know that, right? Over 330 million households in India. Only 10 million households have household income of over 10 lakhs. 10 million households have household income of over 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs is about 15,000 US dollars, right? Every single internet company that we've tried to build to date of scale has tried to mimic a US or Chinese business model, which actually have significantly higher number of households with real disposable income. But we have tried to actually build these mega companies with basically addressable markets today of 10 million households. In many ways, if you take about first generation e-commerce, for instance, which are the companies that we've tried to build to date, they have pretty much catered to and are still catering to the first 10 million households. The first 10 million households that have over 10 lakhs household income per year. And you know what the magic number is? 10 million households, 5 people in a household, 50 million consumers. We just published this major piece of research on e-commerce, and we said e-commerce, which last year was about 10 billion, will get to 50 or 60 billion by 2020. The first 50 to 60 million households will drive 70% of that. Why? Not surprising. Again, it comes back disposable income. So these low household income levels lead to small addressable markets. So the way I think about where we are in India today is very large user base, very small addressable markets. India grows at 8%, GDP per capita grows. One of the most powerful forces in mankind is called CAGR, compounded annual growth rate. But it only really works when n is bigger than 10. N is number of years. So this actually is where we are today. It's good news and not so good news. My single biggest message here is, if you're trying to build a company that basically mimics a business model that has existed in a country where GDP per capita is 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times, you're going to basically focus on between 10 to 50 million Indians. And that business, by the way, unlikely to be very large. Especially unlikely to be very, very large when it comes to profit pools.
Fascinating insights there, Krishna. You know, the real problems that nobody is really looking at. In smaller towns, who's going to spend so much of money online when they just about make ends meet, for regular purchases to just run a household? I think that's really the overarching message coming in there from Rajan Anandan, that, if you want to build a sustainable internet business that's also going to be profitable, it will take 10 years, because that's when GDP per capita in India is really going to reach those levels. I mean, that's one of the most insightful things that I've heard, at least recently. Hope a lot of entrepreneurs, VCs, are hearing it as well before they fund Series B, Series C, Series D. But moving on from that to one of IDG's portfolio companies, and a company that we said is called a Sonicorn because it might just become a unicorn with subsequent rounds of funding. We are talking about Lenskart, which really competes with the likes of Titan Eye Care. We spoke to its founder and CEO Piyush Bansal on the roadmap forward, and also on the discussions that they are having at the moment with Azim Premji for a possible investment. Let's listen into what Piyush Bansal had to say.
I think our biggest plan continues to be, delivering great products and ensuring the number of consumers, percentage of consumers who are referring us to other consumers continues to grow, and we track that very diligently. So that is one key problem, key area of work. And for that, there's a lot of work we need to do at the supply chain level, at the front-end experience level, ensuring the product quality, and which is what builds a phenomenal experience. The second area, of course, I think is to, we just launched our virtual reality, where one can try their specs on, on 3D. We 3D model your face, and it has been a monster hit on the mobile platform, because all mobile phones have camera. So we're seeing over 12,000 people, do those trials every day. So one big plan is to take that to 100,000 trials a day, figure out how can we bring social in that space, where you can actually take feedback from your friends and family on whether they like a look or not, and you can get that feedback. And third, I think, is opening more stores, and I think our biggest strategy is unlocking the potential in tier 3, tier 4 markets. So we are currently present in about 90 cities, and we want to take that to about 400 cities over the next few years. And tier 3, tier 4 markets are very different, consumers are different, the products have to be different, so we need to really localize that. So a lot of time is going to understand in understanding those consumers, what their requirements are, how can we understand their problems and their needs and address them. So that is where other than that, building supply chain, we are right now in the process of setting up our latest facility, which will make over 100,000 specs a day. And
Okay. Talks that you're in discussions for another round of funding, and with the likes of Premji Invest participating. Where does that stand? Have you closed that round, and how will that really help?
Currently, we are not commenting on that, and I don't think we are raising any major investment rounds. Even if we bring on a partner, it is mainly going to be for a strategic reason, because people like Premji and some other people bring a lot of retail expertise and knowledge of the on-ground reality in tier 3, tier 4 markets, and they've been. So I think you may see some of that in the future, but not necessarily any big round of investment.
Okay. So when is it likely to close?
So I can't comment on it, but we'll likely hear something in the next 10-15 days.
We saw Carrot Lane getting acquired by Tanishq, but do you see Titan Eye Care and Lenskart existing as separate businesses?
Oh, totally. I don't think there's any comparison. I think what Lenskart is doing is completely at a different tangent, right? We are the only fashion eyewear business in the country. I mean, in 5 years, we are even larger than Titan already, right? And growing at more than 100% a year. So I think there's no comparison. I think for us, the competition is not Titan at all. For us, the competition is the 350 million people who are not wearing specs today in the country, but who need specs. So I think for us, I think Titan will exist, but for us the goal is really something else.
Right.
It's really addressing those 500 million people who need specs, and our journey so far has been at a very different pace, and it is not at all looking at what Titan is selling, what is not selling. We need to figure out solutions that will make this. So just to give you an example, we are doing over 10,000 eye exams every day, and we are not even benefiting from sales from those eye exams today. So we're really opening the category. We are covering 400 corporates a month. We are visiting 1,000 homes a day. We are doing about 4,000 eye exams at stores. So that is what our goal is. Our goal is to do 100,000 eye exams a day. So I think it's a very different business, very different goal, and yeah.
All right, Chandra, now that's like a comprehensive view of what was it like at IDG Ventures' 10-year anniversary celebration that ET Now Startup Central got exclusive access to. And time now, Chandra, for that part of the show where we crunch a number for the day. And the number we're crunching today is in terms of millions. That's right, the Dropbox hack is the number of the day, and that number is 68 million. That's because 68 million is the number of passwords that have been stolen thanks to that Dropbox. That was a major hack at the cloud-based Dropbox. The data storage company says that user IDs and passwords of some 68 million clients were stolen 4 years ago and recently leaked onto the internet. The company has said that it had no indication that any of its user accounts were improperly entered. They also said it has notified the users and made them reset their passwords on their accounts, but 68 million is a massive number. And Chandra, it's not the first time that Number Crunch on the show has been a story about data hacks.
Oh, it's quite scary, Krishna. I mean, I had a Dropbox account, but thankfully it's been inactive for the longest time I can remember, so much so that Dropbox was forced to suspend my account. So now I'm just happy that, it stayed that way. But Krishna, we have a long weekend ahead. I don't know about your plans, but tomorrow, whatever you do, you have to tune into ET Now, 6 p.m. Onwards.
I will,
because
Chandra.
We are going to bring you all the action from ET Startup Awards live. You're going to see some really, really big voices there. Sachin Bansal, Ola's Bhavish Agarwal, of course, top ministers like Nitin Gadkari. You also have Niti Ayog's Amitabh Kant. Really the who's who from government, from Startup Inc. will be in attendance. And of course the winners, Fresh Desk, Matrix, the list goes on. So that's the programming note we have for you tomorrow.
Chandra, in fact, I will be in studio, addressing the audience and cutting across live to the Oscars of Startup Inc. Tomorrow. So make sure you catch in that important programming note and tune in with me tomorrow then at 6 p.m. to catch all the latest on ET Startup Awards. And with that, we have to wrap things up here on this edition of ET Now Startup Central. Thank you so much for watching, but don't go anywhere. Keep it with ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.